Word Dependent. This is a podcast where people share their stories about how Jesus changed their lives, how they were one way and how they became another way, a better way, once they met Jesus. Brothers and sisters, can I get a witness?
So today we're going to be talking with Miquette McMahon. Miquette, how are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on Word Dependence Podcast. I really appreciate you taking time to do this with us. So Miquette, we know that you grew up in Haiti. What was that like?
Well, it was very different for sure. You know, I had a very good childhood. It was hard,
Yeah.
but it was a very good childhood, good community. Everyone knows I could never run away from trouble because everybody knows you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think my mom and dad are not around, but the neighbors they are just as powerful as your mom and dad. And
Sure.
so everyone was looking out for you. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed my childhood, as hard as it was, you know, with poverty and everything else.
Yeah.
But I look back, I'm very grateful.
Okay. So when did you, or who introduced you to Christ?
So I have a pretty cool story really about my faith. I've always been a Christian. I grew up in a Christian family.
Okay.
But my mom was the force really behind everything that we did as far as for our faith and everything else. And but my family was the only family that I know. Even my mom, she knew in her entire generation who was actually a believer. And I don't really know where her mom was a strong believer to the point where there was chaos in her home because her husband was not a believer. That's my grandma.
Right.
Her husband was not a believer. And so there was lots of friction between Christianity and voodoo and everything else. And I truly believe that my mom saw something in her mom that she just said, I've got to follow that, whatever she had. And so I've been privileged, the fact that I've always been a believer. I got baptized when I was 16. And so I don't have this huge aha moment story that I'm like, that's when I found Christ. I just always had Christ in my life.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So you were mentioning how the poverty and how it was hard. How did Jesus play into that for you?
You know, I think
through those things.
Yeah, I think many of us, we take Jeremiah 29 verse 11 out of context. Many of us, you know what I mean? Because Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet, but yet Jeremiah 11, that's what all of us, we clung into because of that hope and that future that, you know, he talks about God had for the Israelite people. But growing up, I really clung onto that verse. But at the same time, I'm like, man, it was so different for me. I'm like, well, Lord, you said you have a plan for me, a plan to give me hope in the future, yet it's 5 p.m. and I have had nothing to eat. So I don't know what kind of plan you have. It's your plans not to eat today, but I don't like it, you know.
Right.
So it was really hard growing up. We really had to pray for the daily bread literally every single day. Like that prayer has a whole new meaning when you live in poverty. Like that God, you know, give us today our daily bread. It wasn't figuratively. It was like literally we need that daily bread. And I truly believe, just like the Israelites in the desert, God was providing mannas for them every day. When I think about my childhood, and I'm like, I can't believe we made it out. I can't believe we did not starve. And I truly believe God provided manna for us in a different way. It wasn't coming from heaven,
right?
But he provided that manna for us every single day, because I don't know how else to explain it. It's just really by the grace of God that we actually made it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible to me how a lot of people will go through hardship and it distances themselves from God because they're like, well, a good God wouldn't do this to me. But that doesn't sound to be the case for you at all.
Well, I think one thing I came to realize is I've had this amazing opportunity to come to the United States. To my dream of being a nurse finally came true after so many trials, thinking it would never happen. And I'm a registered nurse. I'm leading a nonprofit that's supporting so many kids to go to school. And at the beginning, I had a hard time really accepting the goodness of God in my life, just because I grew up with so many kids just like me who had big dreams, and some of them were way smarter than me. They used to help me with my homework because they were just so good, but they never made it out of poverty. And so I used to ask God, why me? Why me out of? Because like literally in my community, I mean, our name was synonymous with abject poverty. And so when I see what God has done in my life, and I stop asking why me, I'm like, God, just use me. Use me however you see fit. And I truly believe He was crafting me to do exactly what I'm doing right now, because I'm just very empathetic with people. When you say you are hungry, I feel it with you. When I see kids with no clothes or shoes, it takes me back to my childhood, and really that feeling I was going through. And I'm like, maybe that's exactly why I had to go through what I went through in life, so that I could do what I am doing today with more care and compassion, because I've been through it.
So you have spoke. We've heard you mention it live, but I also know in your book you mention of a time when you were called out of class.
Yes,
because you couldn't pay for it. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yes. So I started school very late. 3 years old. That's when we start preschool in Haiti, and but it takes place at an actual school. It's not like a daycare. You really have to go to school with everybody else at the age of 3. Those who can afford it, of course. And in my case, my parents, I had my older siblings, so not all of us could go to school at the same time. And you see that a lot in Haiti, where people alternate who goes to school this year, next year the next one goes, or give the older one a head start, and then we'll go back to the younger one. And so I was 10 years old when I finally went back to when I went to school. And so I had, for 7 years, I waited, and I'm like, when is it going to be my turn? And I know education was important. So when I finally went to school, I was so grateful. And for the first 5 years, things were going great. I was learning. I was excited to go to school. But then throughout my first 5 years, I would say the principals would come to the classrooms and then would call students to leave the classroom because they didn't pay. And I remember the humiliation that those kids would face when they get to that point. And I kept praying, God, please, I do not want to be, please don't let it be me. Don't let it be me. And in 5th grade, my name was called, like my worst fear came true.
Yeah.
Name called, Miquette, you need to leave the classroom. I remember begging, I'm like, please don't send me home. My dream is to be a nurse. How is it gonna happen if I can't stay in school? But it was, I went home, and I remember that walk home was the most excruciating thing for me, the humiliation and the sadness, the brokenness. And when I got home, I told my parents. Of course, they knew why I was sent home. And they said, we'll do whatever we can to send you back. But for now, you're just going to have to be home for a few days until we get the money. And I remember sitting home every single day, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and my friends are passing by. And I'm like, man, I might never go back to school. And then the second week, 2 full weeks being home, that's when my parents told me I could go back to school. So they had gathered enough money, paid the school, so then they said I could go back to school. And then later on, I realized I was sent home for the equivalent of $1.
That's astounding.
$1,
Yeah.
4 quarters
Right.
for 2 weeks. And my parents, who had so very little, they were literally saving pennies.
Sure.
Before they could get that $1. I mean, we were talking it was like 1995, it's not like 1800s or like the 1700s we are talking about, And I remember, man, that's something in me really changed. I stopped dreaming. I was very afraid to dream. I'm like, man, for $1, like $1 is kind of like can end this dream that I have. And so I literally stopped dreaming, and deep down I still hope something will happen. But at the same time, I just said, if I can go to school today, great. And but that fear of going to school and thinking, yep, I think I'm gonna be called pretty soon. That fear just lingering. It was like that my entire year.
Yeah.
Like every year I was in school in Haiti. From first grade through 10th grade, every single year I lived with that fear. And it happened way more than once.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
Oh. So what kids here in the States, like school time is approaching. In a couple more weeks, school is
Yeah.
going to start. And kids here, there are those that love to go to school.
Yes.
But there's so many that don't, that take it for granted. Can you help us understand the difference?
Yeah, I remember school, it's kind of the same school year we have in September, usually sometimes October, depending on the situation of the country. But I would remember school will open in September, first week of September. And then it is the end of August. And the uniforms have not, because we wear uniforms and it's tailored. So you have to buy the fabric, go to the seamstress, and then they have to take your measurements and make the uniforms for you. So it takes like a couple of weeks for you to get your uniforms. And then I'm like, man, it's the end of August. School is opening next week and I don't have a backpack. I don't have school supplies. I don't have the uniform. And then you're like, I don't think I'm going to be going to school. And it's just the hardest thing. Yeah. I mean, I started thinking about all of my friends going to school and me being left behind. And it's just like heart-wrenching because at home, there's not much to do at home. There are no playgrounds. There are no theaters. There's like, school is life. School, that's where you get to play with your friends. That's where, that's pretty, but then unfortunately, many times I would go to school very late, maybe sometimes a month later when my parents could get the supplies, and I never had all of my supplies. If I was waiting for supplies, I would never go to school.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we never had a backpack. I would have, my books would be in my hands. Like if I needed a set of 10 books, maybe my parents could afford 3 or 2.
Yeah.
And then I would come to school with all of my friends, hoping if 5 or 6 or 7 of us gather together, we can get the full set of books. Yeah. We would take notes. And when I first came here, I remember my social studies teacher, first week of school, told all of the students, she had all of the books lined up on a table in the back of her classroom. She told the kids, okay, guys, go get your books in the back. And all of the students were just so like grudgingly going to get the book. They were just depressed, like you think they received the worst news of their lives. Yeah. And I remember I could not understand what was happening. It was my first class, and so I did not go to get a book. I'm like, she's probably going to think I'm rude, but actually I can go get a book. I'll wait. So at the end of class, her name is Mrs. Kachivar. I went to Mrs. Kachivar. I'm like, Mrs. Kachivar, I did not bring any money for the book, so that's why I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I had no money to pay for it. That's why I did not get up with the other students, especially I see their faces. I'm like, maybe these books are too expensive. They can't afford it. Sure. That's what I was thinking of. And then she said, no, Miquette, you don't have to pay for them. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have to pay for them? She said, no, they are for free. You just return them at the end of the year. I'm like, then why the students were not happy? She said, it's just the way it is. And I'm like, what a contrast.
Right.
I'm like, for these kids to have everything they could possibly need for schools, and they have the books, and there were programs. If parents couldn't buy backpacks, there were backpacks available, resources. It's like no child left behind model. And I'm like, and these kids were not happy. And I kept thinking, for me, I was on cloud 9. When I had all of my books, my backpack was so heavy, I refused to put them in the locker because I'm like, man, that's the first time I'm feeling the weight of education on my back. I mean, that feeling was just so exhilarating. Right. I didn't want to get rid of first of all, I didn't know how the locker works to start with, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to carry these books with me. But again, I realized, I'm like, wow, these kids have no idea how good they have it. They just don't. I guess you don't know what you don't know. Because kids here, the kids I went to school with, they've always had everything they need. For school, they've always had, even what we would, the American standard school that are old or outdated. And for Haiti, this would be the most, well, we don't even have even the outdated schools that you would call outdated. We don't even have one as nice to really compare to what kids have here. The ordinary is somebody's extraordinary
Sure.
somewhere else.
Right.
And
Wow.
it's really hard to put it into words. It really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you started talking about your schooling here. Tell us about how you got from Haiti,
From Haiti,
school
yeah.
in Haiti,
Yeah.
to the United States.
It's by the grace of God. It was a miracle. So I had two sisters who were adopted by family in the US. And they were adopted because clearly I had a mom and a dad, and they had a mom and a dad. But it wasn't because of being orphaned really by like family. It was simply poverty. They couldn't take care of them. And so they made the heart-wrenching decision to surrender them for adoption. And they prayed that God would provide a good home for them. They told us we probably would never see them again. It was the hardest thing to go through, knowing we would never see our sisters again.
Right.
But it was for the best, for them to provide them a better life that they could not provide. And I remember 10 years later, the family who adopted them visited Haiti, met us for the first time, and he offered to help me. I spoke no English at that time, and so I didn't know how I was going to make it, but I truly believe that if God wants something to happen, he will make a way. And it wasn't easy to get the visa to come to the US just because of my poverty. It was extremely hard. When you're in poverty in Haiti or in a third world country, usually your family is your tie to go back into a country.
Sure.
But for when you're in poverty, your family actually is a liability for you to go back, because people are going to think, well, you're going to stay and work and send money home to help them, type of thing. And so I did not really get the visa the first time, but through much persistence, I was able to get that visa, came to the US, went to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, from 100-degree weather to below 40
Right.
in Minnesota. And so that was a road awakening. But I was, by the grace of God, I was able to learn the language enough to be able to pass my classes. I went back home. After that, I came here. The family who supported them brought me here through the Rotary Club. And so the Rotary has played a huge role in my life and my success. I do lots of speaking for Rotary as a result of that, just to share my story, how they have changed my life as well. And so that's pretty much how I got to come to the US and finish my last 2 years of high school. Went on to study nursing. I lived with my sisters when I was in Minnesota.
That's so amazing.
Yep.
That God would afford you that
Yes,
opportunity.
yes, absolutely. And went live with them and finished my last 2 years, went to college, studied nursing. That was my ultimate dream. And then I started the nonprofit because, again, thinking back about my story in Haiti, how God really has had his hands on me to pull me out of poverty. And I'm like, I had to pay it forward. And so that's how I started my nonprofit as a result of that.
Okay. Yeah.
So tell us about your nonprofit.
So just 2006, I graduated with my nursing degree, and I had a job waiting for me in Haiti. I knew the life I had left was not going to be the life I was going to live when I went back. I had a job. I had pretty much everything waiting for me back home. And then I started thinking, man, what a turn of event. I thought about my friends who wanted to be doctors, nurses, engineers, teachers, lawyers. They never made it. Very, very few of them made it. And I thought about friends who, when I was sent home, I was not sent home alone. There were students who were sent home as well because they owed $1, sometimes 75 cents, less than $1.
Wow.
And I started thinking of them, and some of them never went back to school. Like some who owed $1 never went back to school. And I started thinking, man, I'm like $1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I could help 10 kids to go to school where they would be able to stay in school for an entire year with all of their supplies and tuition is paid in full for them, and the humiliation of being sent home, the fear of being sent home could be replaced by confidence and stability. I can finish the school year, because it messes with your mind, with your studies, when you're thinking that fear, it hinders you from studying to do the best you could in your exams, because you keep thinking, man, I'm gonna be sent home soon. And so I'm like, if I can send 10 kids to school, that would be great. And that's when I started the program, and I looked for sponsors who would be able to sponsor kids to go to school. We were able to send 41 children the first year, and we've helped hundreds, thousands of kids so far. And we have 2 schools, because we gave scholarships when we first started the program. And so a lot of kids have gone through the program. But now we have 2 schools that we focus on, one in Port-au-Prince and one in Saint Michel, my hometown. And total, we have about close to 700 kids are going to school. We actually have our graduation, 5th graduating class will happen in the next 2 weeks. Actually, next week they are graduating. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about your organization or even support you, what would you tell them?
The first thing I would encourage is, please do keep us in your prayers, because I truly believe prayers is one of the best gifts you can give, because when God wants something to happen and his people pray, amazing things happen.
Yeah.
We have a lot of kids who need sponsors. We always have a waiting list. teachhaiti.org is our website. If someone wants to sponsor a kid or even make support as a one-time donation, however someone wants to help, that's what keeps us afloat with the program. And just encourage them to get my book, The Voice Poverty Cannot Silence.
Yes.
It tells a story. Every single page really display God's glory and how God can use any circumstance for his glory. And I truly believe that's what this book displayed, that he can use anyone and anything
Absolutely.
to bring his glory.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had it upside down. I'll
Yeah.
show it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I second that. This book is fantastic. It's an amazing read. And it's the stuff, this is what I've been saying, this is the stuff that fictional stories are made of, but it's not fiction.
Right. Yeah, it's real. You're sitting right here in front of us. Yeah.
Incredible. And I agree. It just gives God glory and shows his power and
Amen.
his might when he wants to do something.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
I'll make sure I link all of that stuff for everybody down in
Thank
the
you.
description so they
Thank
can
you.
get a hold of you. Yeah.
So what are your dreams and aspirations? Where are you going from here with?
Well, I am in the process of finishing a children's book, which is a spin of that one, because
Okay.
everyone who reads it said, Miquette, you have to do something for kids as well. So I am writing a children's book as well. My dream is just travel around, share about the ministry, share about God's. Because when I share my story, you cannot help but to see God's hands in my story. I can't take credit for what God has done for me. It's not even possible to say, I cannot believe you. I'm like, I can't believe it either. It's God's for sure. There is no way, there are so many great stories in the Bible where God uses, you have like Gideon that, he uses 300 troops, that's, I don't even need them, but I'll use 3. And Gideon could not say, well, it was because I was so strong and my troops was so...
Right.
Those are the things you can take credit for, and that's my story.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how I spin my story. When someone knows where I came from, you cannot help but see God's at work, because there is no way I could have made it without God.
Right.
And so I love sharing my story. I travel quite a bit throughout the country. I do a lot of speaking for Rotary churches. Pretty much anyone who wants to hear the story. That's kind of like what I like to do. Yeah.
Can I ask a question as a mom?
Absolutely.
To a mom?
Absolutely.
How has, and I know as you're raising kids here in the States in a totally different environment than what you were raised in, how does your past impact how you parent them here and now?
Well, I guess just to know that you are you are the most fortunate, and that's the one thing, that you're the exception, and that's what I want the kids to know. It doesn't matter if you have thousands or whatever amount of money you have in the bank. If you live in this country, you're able to go to school every day. If you have like buses that can take you to school, you have backpacks that can be given to you. You have everything you need for school. You're the exception.
Sure.
And I think I try to do my best, and kids will be kids. They still don't know how fortunate they are. But I'm like, you're the exception. And so, like, I'll cook something and my kids will say, well, I don't like it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't like it?
Yeah.
That was never part of my vocab growing up in Haiti. So you're kidding, But yeah, I just try to, and I think they do. They at some extent they do know they are fortunate because because they all were in Haiti. We moved here not too long ago, and so they've been like sometimes they'll go to the school. They teach Haiti school because it's very close to where we live. So they'll go to the school. They'll actually serve food to the students, and they'll play soccer with them. They've seen poverty firsthand, and they can see the contrast between their lives and the lives of their friends and their peers, and I think that does show that they are the exception for sure. And everything that we have is God does not just bless us, just God loves us, of course, and He wants us to be in a good place. But I truly believe God doesn't just bless you just because He's blessing you to be a blessing to others, to show someone that He is kind, He is compassionate, because you just never know, you might be somebody's prayers to answers, because that was for me. The family who supported me, John and Mary Lee, the Rotary Club, they were the answers to my prayers. The prayers my parents have prayed for years to break the cycle of poverty. That's a prayer they've prayed forever. And God used people here to answer that prayer, and that's something that I never want to take for granted, to be the answer to somebody's prayer. I'm thinking, like, when I tell the parents and teach Haiti, I have good news for you. Jean is going to school. We got a sponsor, and they would say, I've been praying for so long. And it's the best news I can share with my sponsors. That parent has been praying for so long.
Absolutely.
And you are the answer to their prayers.
Wow.
I just cannot help but to just be so grateful to be able to do the work that I do.
Absolutely. How has where God has you now, how has that impacted your family back home in Haiti?
Oh, in big way. Like, everyone in my family is doing pretty well. I'm so sorry. Everyone in my family is doing pretty well. I have my sisters, they are working, being independent. I have a brother who is a medical doctor. It's all, because when I got the help that I got, I really wanted to make sure I helped my family.
Sure.
Instead of giving him a fish, I wanted to teach them how to fish. And as a result of that, they are all doing pretty well for themselves. Their kids are in schools, and they no longer live in poverty. They don't have to worry where the next meal will come from, which was the way we grew up every single day in Haiti. And it has helping one person. It's amazing, the domino effect, the ripple effect.
Right.
It's indescribable, and I'm very grateful for that.
So John and Mary were not just the answer to prayer for you, but
Ripple effect is going through.
It's a ripple effect.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you sharing your story, and it's an amazing story.
Thank
you for being with us.
Thank you for making time for it, and I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Likewise, God bless you too.